Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another part of my F1 24 career mode. This one for round number 3 in Season 1 for the Australian Grand Prix. We had a really fantastic and entertaining race last time out in Jeddah, where it literally went down to the wire for the race win into the final corner. We saw one of the funniest crashes ever into Turn 1 as well, and it was a very good day in the office for us in our second race only as a rookie debut here in Formula 1, and things are on the up. We have got 4 upgrades pending at the moment, 2 purchased by yours truly and 2 purchased by our teammate Lando Norris. So as a unit, just like in real life, this McLaren team in-game is starting to cook with the upgrades as we set our sights for a flight down under for the Australian Grand Prix. Going through the activity timeline, just confirming those upgrades. My chassis upgrade comes in. Good to see. Oh, Lando's had another failure. He's had another failure. Oh, it's a second failure.
I thought you were busy. What have you been doing?
He's been doing this. He's been doing it. I don't make any mistakes. I may be looking clinically depressed in this little menu bit, but mark my words, Lando is dying inside. Look at that. There's no light behind those eyes. Nothing. 3 failed upgrades in 2 episodes to start the entire series off. My friend, that is poor. That is very, very poor. And to be fair, maybe Lando wants to take that up with our manufacturing expert. Speaking of which, in the last part, I asked you guys whether we should give names to these different specialists so that we can, connect on a different sort of level. So let me introduce you to the team. We've got Marcel and Miguel. We've got Chloe and Zoe. And then Colin. Colin, you don't get a rhyming name because I don't like you, mate. The vibes aren't really giving, okay? You're giving me bad energy. And to be honest, you've not done a very good job with my teammates' upgrades. 3 failures in 2 episodes is pretty shocking, but anyway. And then we've got Denise, which, again, she doesn't have a rhyming name, and that's because she hates me. I mean, she can't even look me in the eye. Yep, nope, she just wants to look at the computer, look away, and give me the side eye. To be fair, she is the strategy analyst, and the amount of times I ignore the set-out strategy by my team, I can't blame her. Maybe she's seen what I've done in F2 and thought this guy doesn't follow the plan. But bad first impressions aside, we do come to a 3rd race weekend where we are working with a couple of these contractors coming in, and for the first time we're going to be working with Zoe, the wind tunnel engineer. Now her objectives are either achieve an average corner speed of 106 miles per hour, which I thought seemed pretty reasonable, but then I thought maybe there's room for error there, so completing a lap using 2 different setups, that's going to be pretty easy because you can just tweak the front wing from one qualifying session to the other. Hopefully we get through into multiple qualifying sessions, that is. And then we come to Marcel with the power unit consultant. So achieve 3 purple sectors during a race weekend, or achieve a position of 7th or better in qualifying. Now, that second one was a bit difficult, so we went for the purple sectors because my qualifying has not been amazing. We've not made it into Q3 so far, so that'd be quite something if we set that goal and achieved it straight away. And then with Miguel at quality assurance, we're going to try and spend 45 seconds in 4th gear during a race weekend. Let's just hope we don't achieve that with a gearbox issue of some kind and getting stuck in 4th gear. And then Denise did it. Really. Perfect 1 practice program during a race weekend. Complete the race strategy practice program on 2 different types of tyres. Now, Denise, you know I do quick practice, so both of these are impossible! I hate Denise already. And now we have to look to clean up Colin's sloppy work with the part failure for Lando's upgrade, and we can't even do that. We can't even do that because we have reached department capacity. Well, sucks to suck. I'm going to spend my R&D points on the next upgrade I want, which is the next minor weight reduction upgrade. And both of Lando's upgrades will just have to stay failed unless he goes ahead and purchases them for himself. He might do after quick practice, obviously, as we go through the motions and try and earn the maximum we can get, which is only 240 R&D points. But Lando earns considerably more, as I've said, so he might well repurchase both those failed upgrades going into the race weekend, but obviously that will take time to still come in. But there's still some positives. There's still my chassis upgrade that has come in, and so that brings us a little bit closer, technically on paper, to Mercedes and Ferrari. Still quite a big gulf to Red Bull, but small progress, and that's what it's all about. Chipping away at our rivals, and hopefully I'm going to be chipping away and getting more and more comfortable with the car and in Formula 1. Let's go to qualifying.
And a warm welcome, everybody. We're here in the heart of Melbourne. It's Albert Park, and it's qualifying for the Australian Grand Prix.
Oh, it is pissing it down here, down under, for the Australian Grand Prix. It's going to be our first ever wet qualifying on this game in this series, and the first time we've driven the McLaren in any sort of situation in the wet. So this is a massive step into the unknown. We fueled the car up for a couple of laps, but to be fair, that means also we might have to do a little bit of management with the ERS. So I won't be able to kind of overuse the ERS, let's say, with overtake mode on the qualifying lap if I want to do consecutive laps. So kind of almost like the old school way it was on the previous F1 game. We're just going to keep the ERS mode in hot lap mode and just go on and continue on. But to be fair, I'm quite happy to do that because I think we're just going to need the extra laps to get comfortable, find that extra edge and the limit of where the car is, where the conditions are, and we found a limit there as we get onto the grass, and the car has a massive snap of oversteer. We tried to catch it, it wasn't very clear on the onboard, it kind of just looks like I've flicked it into the wall there, but the rear end was going, as you can see by the replay there, the rear end had stepped out because I put it on the grass, the rear left tyre, and in the cockpit with the very sensitive handling this year, a snap like that is so easy to do when you're trying to counter steer. And that's, well, it's not our session over, but that's our run over. Front wing damage, and we have to come back in now for a front wing change the tyres, and then we go out again. And by the time we've come out, you can see there's a drying line occurring as there's a clear racing line where the cars have hoovered up the rain, which is pretty nice to see the first time I've seen that in action in the game. And as we cross the line, well, it was a green first sector, purple the second, yellow the third. The first lap we actually did will be good enough, just about to get through. You know, it was very tight actually, you know, only 2/10, and we would have been down in like 13th place rather than 10th place there. But Lando up there in P4. Hamilton showing himself as a bit of a rainmeister at the moment. P1 in the Mercedes. That's the best he's looked all season so far. Let's see how things progress into Q2. You know, we haven't got through into the top 10 shootout so far. I'm not feeling too confident about making that happen here in these conditions, but you never know. I did actually, you know, prefer my wet weather driving in a weird way in the preview content, because everything's going a bit slower. The handling doesn't feel so erratic. You can take that time to be very slow and delicate with the steering, and also, to be fair, the snappy steering does actually help you dance the car around when the grip does go a little bit at the rear or the front. But I can appreciate none of that actually looks like it's true visually on this lap so far, because it's looked pretty damn messy as we're really wrestling with the car, because I wanted to find more pace in it, because I felt like there was way more pace in it, especially with this, you know, drying line. I thought surely there's got to be more grip if I try my best to stick within the line, but it's easier said than done, just dipping a tyre into that damper patch on the outside of the racing line, and we lose the time we gained in the first two sectors. We gained some back in the final corner at least to do better on that second flying lap, and we do get into Q3 for the first time. How about that? The wet conditions have allowed me to get into the top 10 shootout. Does that mean on this game I'm officially better at the wet than I am in the dry? Probably not. Probably not. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But it's still something. That's still, to me at least, mega promising that I've managed to get into Q3. And the first time I've done it is in wet conditions, because that definitely would not have been the case on last year's game. So, yeah, so as a rookie, in my third time of asking, we have got through into the top 10 shootout in very challenging conditions. You've got to be happy with that. I'm hoping McLaren will be happy with that, and I'm hoping that that's going to be my overall pace and etc. goes up as well. And things are looking even better in Q3 as we navigate the circuit a little bit more eloquently, getting the nose turned in and keeping the car in the lines of the racing line where it seems to be a bit drier, although my engineer's been on about it getting wetter potentially, and the rear end does get away from us a little bit, but we're pushing harder and harder and finding more time around the circuit. At the moment, our first flying laps put us in P7, Lando up in P5, but Hamilton's gone quicker. Oh no, we've got no battery. Oh no, come on. Oh, that's a really bad mistake. I don't know what's gone on there, actually. I thought we had enough battery. I didn't overuse it. You can see the green bar is half full. So I've not even overused overtake mode. But I've just lost 4/10 because the battery wasn't there. That just shows you how much ERS matters, really, as I'm desperately trying to find more time out there, and instead I make a second big error in Q3, and that's the session over. Oh, what a messy, messy day this has been for us. We are really showing our inexperience here today. That's 2 times we've span it, 2 times we've hit the wall, and this time it's the session over. In the end of it, if you really look at the result, it's still not too bad, you know. P7, only half a tenth behind Lando Norris, pretty much, our teammate. So that's actually pretty good, but what could have been? I think there was more time on the table, to be honest. I think genuinely I had some really good pace in this McLaren in intermediates, but 2 big mistakes there. Whatever, I don't know what went on with the battery. Well, how that battery got drained that much, I do not know. And then, well, I just tried to get a bit too greedy to try and find some time after losing the battery, and we just got way too much on the curb, and the car snapped us off into the wall. So thankfully it's still a good grid position, the best we've had all season, but you know, we've got to cut out those mistakes because there's no guarantee we would have put in a banker lap time the next time that happens, for example. So yeah, still kicking myself a little bit, but let's go to the grid then, try and move past it and just try and build on the P7 on the grid.
You can hear the Australian fans roaring as they line the track here in Albert Park. Welcome to Melbourne, and the roar from the crowd can only mean one thing. It's race day. So here we are at Albert Park Circuit, 3.28 miles around, with the streets making for a bumpy surface with little undulation. There are 14 corners around the lake, with the best passing opportunities coming at turn 1 and turn 3. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and it's Fernando Alonso alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Leclerc, Norris, Hamilton, a McLaren, Russell, Perez, Albon, Bottas, Stroll, Joe, Ocon, Tsunoda, Gasly, Ricciardo, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, and Logan Sargent. And now it's time to head down to the track. And alongside me for the first time this season here in the commentary box, Naomi Schiff. Hello, Gnomes. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, every driver certainly has their own way of preparing themselves before a race. But I can tell you that pre-race rituals are a real thing. When I was in go-karting, I used to touch every wheel in a specific sequence before I got into the kart. And then I stepped up to cars and had a specific set of fireproof base layers just for race day. So watch the drivers when they're on the grid. Some may be sitting on the floor and isolating, others may be up to other things that they do. But these little things really help their minds get ready for the race.
So this is our highest qualifying position so far in our F1 career, that being 3 rounds, including this one, so really not that far into it at all at the start of the journey, but getting a P7 feels like a massive accomplishment. It's number 7 for the number 7 on our car. I'm hoping that will be a bit of good luck here today. Lando 2 positions ahead of us. It's the first time I can actually see him on the grid, basically, because I've been too far back otherwise, and he's been far up the order in the top 10 shootout. We're starting on the medium tyre. Everyone, it seems like, is on the mediums after, obviously, qualifying was a washout, so free choice of tyre for everyone. And I did think about going hards again at the start of this race, like we did in Jeddah, but because we didn't do any dry running qualifying, I really don't know what my dry pace is like around here, and I don't want to leave it to chance and just leave us completely helpless going backwards on a harder compound of tyre. So we're sticking with what everyone else is doing around us. It's the first time in the top 10, so let's just try and not get flustered as we go to lights out, and we're underway down under for the Australian Grand Prix, and it's a fantastic getaway for Fernando Alonso, the Aston Martin, up into first place. We've dived around the outside to try and be heroic, a bit too heroic maybe, as we just went off circuit a tiny bit on the outside of our teammate Lando, but we have overtaken overtaken a Mercedes and a Ferrari. We've managed to defend Leclerc and remain in P5. That is at least a positive there, as Sergio Perez gets it all crossed up and his front end was wagging away as he gets done by George Russell. But it's Fernando Alonso in P1 here. Unbelievable stuff, leading the Australian Grand Prix for how much longer? Verstappen coming through to spoil the party almost immediately. Verstappen on the inside, but Alonso fights him back. Oh no, he's done it. He's defended. Alonso genuinely has the pace maybe to take the fight to Red Bull, at least in the opening stages here. Let's see how the tyre wear kicks in, because I have a feeling the Aston Martins aren't too great on the tyres. We've seen that a few times already, that they seem to be a bit slower at the end of the races. But at the moment, Alonso leads the way still on lap 2, riding on board with Max Verstappen, the reigning champion here in 2024, and gets round the outside. And this time, Alonso is defenseless because of the DRS also being available on this second lap, of course, as well. Meanwhile, for us, bit of no man's land. I'm unable to keep up pace with Lando, unfortunately. Once again, still showing we have a long way to go in terms of getting quick in Formula 1, and we're trying to defend Leclerc. Leclerc's done very well to get down the inside. He really got the elbows out, and annoyingly, he's got DRS for the second straight here after turn 1, and so we're unable to come back at him. So the Ferrari has passed us, and unfortunately might be past us for good, because I'm really not feeling that fast around here. This is nothing like Jeddah, where I felt like we were holding back, saving tyres. I'm pushing flat out, and I cannot keep up with this top pack of Verstappen, Alonso, Sainz, Lando, and that top pack will once again be switching, because Fernando Alonso makes a beautiful little copycat move to get back into the lead of the Grand Prix. Meanwhile, we get very close to Leclerc's rear end, but the dirty air kicks in. You saw that understeer in the second phase of the chicane, and now George Russell has entered the chat. He dives down our inside. We leave him the room, but we're also going a bit wide anyway, because our tyres are a little bit worse for her, I think, after that little high-speed scrub. And again, a bit of a slide on the rear end as we have to go opposite lock through the right-hander, and Russell is able to overtake us. We've got some dirt on the camera, in fact, as well, being kicked up from that curb excursion, and Perez is immediately going to be on the back of us. We move a little bit to the middle of the circuit just to try and break the toe slightly. We've got DRS, and we get the nose turned in for turn 1 at least to try and maybe come back at Russell. Plenty of battery use, overtake mode, DRS open on the outside. Russell goes defensive and is actually really stern with his defense. There was that second jolt of acceleration you may have seen as he wobbled about in the brake zone as he tried to make sure he got to the apex first. And look at that understeer. We hit the wall on the exit of that corner, which is usually just flat out here. So right now, I didn't bother to check my carcass temperature. Now I do. Look at the internal temperature on the left-hand side of the car. That's definitely going to affect the way the tyre actually grips up and gives me that turn-in and bite point out of corners. And that's why I may be feeling a bit of understeer and unresponsiveness with the car over the curbs and at high speed, because our tyres internally are being absolutely roasted. And I don't know if any of the other drivers are feeling it. Verstappen leads the way, but Alonso is coming back at him now once again. The Spaniard tries to overtake him, but it's the other Spaniard, Carlos Sainz. Hang on a minute. Oh my word. He has just done the smash and grab, and he's got the 2-for-1 pass on Verstappen and Fernando Alonso. Alonso was stuck behind Verstappen under his rear wing, and the Ferrari just went, thank you very much. Clean air on the right-hand side before the high-speed chicane, and he's up into first place. Are we going to see Sainz winning the same race he won in real life and surpassing Verstappen here to victory? Obviously, in real life, he DNF'd. Here in this race, he's got a chance to re-overtake Sainz, but the Ferrari is going to slam the door shut at turn 1, and we're going to have to try and do that ourselves as Russell comes back at us. It might be a three-way fight because Perez is there on the outside. It is 3 abreast into turn 1. Russell gets pinched in, and we actually have to get the elbow out on Sergio Perez, but this is a lot of defensive work, and in only a couple of laps, Leclerc is nearly 5 seconds ahead of us, just showing the lack of pace that I've got around Melbourne compared to Jeddah. You know, that was a real one-off race that last episode. Maybe a little bit annoyingly, kind of, you know, smoke and mirrors for where our real performance still lays, which is just not up to scratch yet, but we can't be too hard on ourselves. We are a rookie in Formula 1, and there's still plenty of learning to be done with this car, with the tyres, you know, protecting them. Clearly, I need to do more work on protecting the temperature at a track like this where they've really hurt me. Like, you can't even see it, you know, it's kind of like a black art. You know, it's only very apparent if I look at the heads-up display, which I'm not going to do constantly. But right now, my tyres are probably cooking on the inside. They're yellow on the internal temperature. And that's just making, especially the slower speed corners, very difficult to navigate. You know, there are areas of the track where I'm feeling quite quick still. And that's mostly on the back straight here. As we go to the chicane, we made the pass on Russell before. We go for the move on Perez, but he squeezes us. We were inches away from the wall. And instead, we tried to cut in for the tighter line. We got caught up on the curb a little bit. The tyres are still screaming out, but we fake to the right, go to the left, and try and go round the outside of Checo Perez in the Red Bull. I mean, I'm pretty happy we're taking the fight to a Red Bull car, but we all know Perez's performance this year in the Red Bull hasn't been great, and once again, we are gymkhanaing it through a corner, the rear end wagging like a dog's tail, and we actually made contact with Perez, so I'm very worried about the front wing, so I'm asking constantly about the vehicle condition, and my engineer just doesn't want to give me the information, Mark. What are you on about? I'm not talking about the tyre grip, I'm talking about the car damage, man. As we look to now repass Perez again, this is turning into a very over-aggressive and unnecessarily aggressive fight, but I really want to prove a point that we can at least maintain this position for P6 here. Perez is on the receiving end of some very harsh defence, and to be honest, that one was maybe a little bit over the line, but you didn't hear that from me. And meanwhile, at the forefront, Verstappen and Sainz are going toe-to-toe, and there was a bit of wobbling going on into the brake zone. That was fantastic. Verstappen retakes the lead. Sainz back down to second, and we are an absolute sitting duck here. Perez with DRS, but also you can see on the bottom right, I've hardly got any battery. And look at the snap of oversteer twice in the chicane. The rear end all over the shop, and now I'm being attacked from the left and the right by Mercedes cars. Hamilton on the inside, and he's maybe got me here. Look at the rear tyres on the right. They're so awful. This has been a trial by fire. This has been a trial by fire. This sport is cruel. I was feeling so good after Jeddah, and now this has just shot my confidence completely. Yeah, this has been a horror race for us in terms of pace, being bullied out of positions, and to be fair, I was doing my fair share of bullying, trying to maintain P6, but I've got to be real with myself. I've not got the pace to actually be P6, as Perez pulls away, absolutely, you know, only after a couple of corners being ahead of me. And now look at the gap, 5.8 seconds on lap 12. That's a travesty. That's a my tyres are gone, my battery's gone, because I'm trying to save battery for later in the lap. But the AI consistently are using it right here. You saw Albon just breeze past me. That's also the DRS, to be fair, as well. But it's like in Jeddah, there are a few moments around the track where you're clearly out of sync of other drivers, of where you're saving battery. And it really hurts you to not be in that rhythm with them, because I'm looking to go quicker elsewhere, but it means that I'm losing track position with Albon here, you know, in a previous part of the circuit. I'm saving battery for this part of the track, but it doesn't matter because Albon is now nearly a second ahead of me. These tyres are done. He's a second. He's nearly broken DRS. These tyres are really done. I'm just not getting any grip mid-corner, and I can't keep up with the Williams that I didn't even see at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. As we close back to Albon, we've saved some battery. We've not got too much, though, because I've actually used so much to actually just catch back up to him to make this pass with DRS out of the chicane. We've been told to keep the total fuel down as an objective mid-race here, and like in Bahrain, I should have heeded that as a warning, because I really do think these objectives, they actually come up when they're relevant to you, because that's, again, like in Bahrain, going to come back to bite me later in this race. But for now, we come in and we're getting rid of these awful mediums that were, well, they were just an absolute pain after about 6 laps. We're onto the hard tyres. Yeah, in hindsight, should I have started on the hards? Yeah, probably. But also, I would have had to have put these mediums on at the end of the race. So at least we've got the paint out of the way now. But obviously there's an argument about heavier fuel loads, etc, etc. But at least we made the move on Albon to re-overtake him just before the pit stop. I wanted to do it before the pits just to try and get track position, because I knew maybe on the hard tyres I had a better chance of holding him up, if that makes sense. But we still have to save a bit of fuel because of the objective. And I'm going to want to save it anyway, because little did I know, but my fuel load is not enough to get to the end of the race as it stands. Meanwhile, in my teammate's more experienced world, well, he's P2 because Verstappen and Alonso pit, and Lando is going for a move for the race lead. Obviously, he still has to make a pit stop, but it still counts at least for something here as he overtakes the Ferrari and might be on for a better position. And he is, because he's made a pit stop now, lap 16, and he's come out in P2. Verstappen leads. What's new? But Lando is up to second place, which is unbelievable for him to get ahead of both Ferraris, or at least stay ahead of Leclerc and get ahead of Sainz at least. And Alonso down in P6, and he's got damage on his front wing there, and it's actually from a much earlier incident. So here's a replay. He's coming out the pits and he breaks his front wing. Horrendous luck for Alonso, so we'll see later on where he ends up, but that's very unfortunate for a man who was fighting for first place at one point in this race. Meanwhile, for me, I was nowhere near first, and I was nowhere near the top 5 even, and now we're struggling to even maybe keep our P10 for one championship point. And it's back to Bahrain, where we were fighting Albon all race long, where we're fighting him again, getting very comfortable and used to seeing the Williams car near me. I thought we were kind of past that from Jeddah, but no, I've got a Williams and a Haas car for company. Magnussen doing very well to drag the Haas. Much further than Hulkenberg, P19 right now. Magnussen flying high in P12 ahead of the Alpines, the Visa Cash App RBs and the Kick Saubers, who were very quick, to be fair to them, in the first 2 races, but now struggling a bit as we gain back on Albon, using none ERS here to try and save battery whilst we've got the DRS. Again here, not wanting to overuse it, medium to none, just saving and building up that yellow bar in order to use it in a better spot. And this might just be it. Albon's got a bit of dirty air potentially from the car ahead of him. Lance Stroll, who's made a pit stop. We go to the inside. Albon covers off the middle. We go to the outside to try and fake him out, and Albon does the tried and true thing of not defending thin air. He just remains in the middle and made me do all the dancing around, and for what? For absolutely niche, as we're down to P11 still and unable to make that overtake. Overtake failed. That would be if this was the F1 Manager game and we have to go again, but we're on hot lap mode now. That gives us a bit of a booster through this straight. DRS open, and we've gained back on Albon from so far back at the start of that section. Big dive on the inside. We are confident on the front turn in there. A little bit of curb riding on the inside, but we get back up into P10. And there was a little motivation from Stroll being right there, but that was only wishful thinking, because of course he is on fresher medium tyres. But it's always good to have something to chase a bit. But what we haven't done is completed our fuel objective, and that was a very bad sign of things to come. Let me tell you something. The rest of this race is going to be absolute pain. It's going to be absolute pain. But right now, we are going to enjoy Sergio Perez and Hamilton having a bit of a squabble. Hamilton defending and unable to defend the Red Bull, who eventually comes through in P5. And Perez, really, the bare minimum, should be making that overtake very easily, because Verstappen's out there 5.3 seconds ahead of Lando Norris in second place. But our teammate's doing amazingly to be in second, well ahead himself of the 2 Ferraris. So in a race where he's second and I'm down in P9, kind of really undoes all the kind of amazing work we did in Jeddah and that amazing result to finish ahead of Lando in that race. F1, people forget things very, very quickly, and I'm sure they'll forget about Jeddah and they'll be talking about this result after the race. There'll be questions asked in the pen, because right now this performance is absolutely dog. The pace is nowhere. The car is nowhere. I am absolutely nowhere. Mentally, I'm not even in the cockpit now. I'm just thinking about the end of the race, thinking about flying home at this point probably. Maybe, I don't know, getting back on a good sleep schedule. Many things will be in my mind right now, but racing will not be, because, when it's a situation like this, I lose a lot of motivation. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that, but when there's nothing to fight for, I lose my concentration very quickly. And right now, well, at the moment, the concentration comes back a little bit because I've got 2 cars either side of me, Magnussen and Zhou Guanyu, pincering me in, but we remain in 10th place, and we close up to Albon, but you're now seeing I'm doing some massive lifting and coasting. You would have literally audibly heard there the engine lift off. I'm going to do it here again. Lift off very early. Let the car do the slowing down aerodynamically. The engine braking to try and save fuel. Because we are minus, well, nearly minus 0.1 on fuel. And you can probably tell, if you keep an eye on that and look at when we're lifting and coasting, it's really not coming down that dramatically. And it takes us a whole whopping 3 laps, lap 26, 27, 28, to just get it back into a green range. The tyres, the hard tyres weren't much better than the mediums. They're pretty horrendous as well. But yeah, the fuel's pretty bad, and also I apologise, it looks like the frame rate is pretty bad as well for some bloody reason, the recording right now. But yeah, I've done all this fuel saving, and I still need to save some fuel on the second last lap of the Grand Prix. And look at this, Magnussen and Zhou Guanyu coming at me at a rate of knots, lift and coast, turn it in, and I'm not going to lie, we had to use the handling exploits a little bit there. You saw I lifted off, and I simply used the incredible turn-in of this handling model to get the car slowed down, and that really saved us a lot of fuel, so thank God for that exploit a little bit. But yeah, Verstappen leads the way by 6 seconds. Lando unfazed in P2, 9 seconds ahead of the 2 Ferraris, that line is stern. So it's a fantastic display by our teammate there that absolutely shows the car is getting quicker, but we did not, and we made mistakes in this race weekend. Not only in qualifying, you know, with the mistakes, the 2 crashes, but mistakes on maybe we didn't put enough fuel in the car, and maybe was too aggressive with taking some fuel out, and the tyre management has been very, very poor. At least there's one thing. On the final lap, we overtake Albon. We've timed it well. We've just got enough fuel and battery. I pretty much decided to sit behind Albon in P10 for all those laps I had to fuel save, because I thought, okay, if I need to lift and coast, I want to get DRS off someone. So I tactically just stayed in P10, did my fuel saving, and that is exactly what I wanted to happen. On the last lap, we got the overtake on Albon to repass into P9. It's 2 championship points. We matched the result we got in Bahrain, which, to be fair, we should be happy at. But because of what happened in Jeddah, that amazing result, this seems like an utter failure. But really, in reality, we can't be too harsh on ourselves. That's still a solid race in comparison to Bahrain, at least. But a lot of learning, the tyres, fuel, a lot of things.
Wow, that's 3 wins in a row. They really are on a roll now and really building great momentum. They're clearly one to look out.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everybody at the team.
So it's a great day in the office for our teammate Lando Norris. Very happy for him to get that 2nd place. Shows that the car really does have that potential, but we have just so much to go in terms of getting quicker in Formula 1, and especially learning all those things about the tyres. Still really a bit of a mystery of how it was so fine in Jeddah and so awful here in Australia. Maybe something to look at in the setup work as well. But we're 3rd place in the Constructors. I'm probably letting this side down a bit, but I'm hoping Lando's patient with me, and eventually I will get to a point where I can support him and support the team in our fight, because we really should be hoping to try and stick with Ferrari just based off the pace we've shown in glimpses so far this season. But yeah, another race under our belt, a difficult one, but you know, one that we maybe needed as a reality check from the very lucky result we got in Jeddah, with the safety car obviously helping us out so much in that one. But guys, if you have enjoyed this episode, then be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. When you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.